we have one more thing of value in claims because we have to cover wrongful deaths here in Virginia.
So wrongful death claims are strictly a statutory creature. They're outlined by statute. They must be brought in the name of the personal representative or the executor of the estate. This is the person who has the power to negotiate on behalf of the estate and negotiate for settlement. The beneficiaries for wrongful death actions are also laid out by statute. So it typically would go the spouse and then the children, and then it delineates the relationships for those statutory beneficiaries to recover. Wrongful death settlements, so if you do settle before trial, they will approval and they cannot be filed under seal. So although you can outline a separate release and settlement agreement that may require terms like confidentiality, non-disparagement, which are important terms that those will allow you to minimize the extent to which plaintiffs and their attorneys can publicize the settlement. But the actual wrongful death settlement, the fact of the settlement, the order approving the settlement, these are going to be public record. Virginia courts have found that the public has a right to know about them. But we can do what we can to minimize the effect of that with a settlement and a release agreement.
Okay, these are the damage instructions in Virginia for wrongful death, and I'll make up a little time here by covering the 2 points that you need to know when you have a Virginia wrongful death case in front of you on damages. The first one is there is no conscious pain and suffering that goes to the decedent. It is the sorrow and loss to the beneficiaries. So the most important factor is a relationship, the closeness between the beneficiary and the decedent. The plaintiff's attorneys will try to get into evidence of cause of death, of time in the hospital, of things like that through, well, it made the beneficiaries more sorrow, more sad because they knew the decedent was suffering. So I'm not saying it's a clean shot, but there's arguments on that in wrongful death cases. The other point you need to know, wrongful death cases, it's reasonably expected loss of income or reasonably expected loss of services. So in a situation where you have a 55-year-old person who dies, who's not married, but has 2 adult children, but at the time they're not receiving any income from that decedent, they don't have a right to the lost income. In Virginia, you have to have actual past payments to have a reasonable reliance on it. It's not enough to be the heir and say, well, I would have inherited the money at some point. That's too speculative. So that could knock a big boarded number out when you're looking at these wrongful death claims in Virginia. Those are the 2 things you got to keep in mind.